In 2024, the Federal Trade Commission did something nobody had bothered to do at scale. They collected the income disclosure statements, the legally required earnings documents, from 70 multi-level marketing companies. Big ones you'd recognize, small ones you wouldn't. Then they read all of them and did the arithmetic the companies had carefully avoided doing in public. Across those 70 companies, most participants made $1,000 or less per year, less than $84 a month, before expenses. And in at least 17 of those companies, most participants made nothing at all, not a small amount. Zero. But the finding I keep coming back to isn't the money. It's what the FTC said about how those documents were built. Nearly all of them did the same 4 things. They led with the huge numbers earned by a tiny group at the top. They buried or omitted the percentage of people who made nothing. They presented the data in ways designed to confuse, and they ignored expenses entirely, even though in many of these companies, expenses exceed income. That's not a document that failed to inform you. That's a document engineered to inform you incorrectly while remaining technically true. Once you can see that pattern, you start seeing it everywhere, not just in MLMs, in gig apps, in courses, in the survey data itself. Which brings me to the number that reframed this whole topic for me. The average American side hustle earns about $885 a month. The median earns $200. Same population, both numbers true. And if you understand exactly why they're that far apart, you can evaluate any income claim anyone makes to you for the rest of your life. Here's where we're going. What that gap means. Who writes the data you've been reading? The gig economy number that 3 separate research teams calculated, same job. A piece of arithmetic I want you to run on yourself before this video ends. And the exit condition nobody sets, which is where most of the money actually gets lost. Start with the gap. An average gets destroyed by outliers. A median doesn't. 9 people make $200, 1 makes $7,000. The average is $880, and the median is $200. The average is technically correct and functionally a lie, because it describes nobody in the room. Bankrate puts side hustle earnings at roughly $885 average against a $200 median. SurveyMonkey landed almost identically. In annual terms, most side hustlers bring in under $5,000 a year. Now compare that to how this gets talked about online, where every number you meet is an average, a top earner case study, or a screenshot. First rule, and it's the most useful thing in this video. Any income claim presented without a median is marketing, not necessarily dishonest. Marketing. Whoever quoted you, an average, chose the one summary statistic outliers can inflate without limit. And if they had a median that supported the pitch, they'd have led with it. The absence of the median is the information. You can run this on anything. A course promising 6 figures. What's the median outcome for buyers? A platform advertising driver earnings, median or average? Ask once and watch what happens. And there's an entire tier of this economy where that question is fatal, which is where I want to go next, because it's the most reliably profitable side hustle in America, and almost nobody counts it as one. Teaching side hustles. Courses about dropshipping. Coaching about Amazon. Masterclasses on becoming a coach who sells masterclasses. During the actual gold rush, the dependable fortunes were made selling shovels, and the modern version is selling a course about shovels to people who haven't found any gold yet. The test is one question. What percentage of your income comes from doing the thing versus teaching the thing? If they won't answer, you have your answer. And I'm not being glib about that because the shovel problem isn't confined to obvious course sellers. It quietly contaminates almost all the data you'd use to make a decision, which I discovered when I tried to answer what should have been a simple question. What percentage of Amazon FBA sellers actually make money? I found sources claiming 46%, others claiming 64%, one saying 86% are profitable, another headline saying 80% fail. Those aren't small disagreements. They're incompatible. So look at who published them. The 86% figure traces to Jungle Scout, a company that sells Amazon seller software. Others come from profit tracking tools, seller platforms, and agencies selling services to Amazon sellers. Nearly every source is produced by an organization whose revenue depends on more people believing this works. That's not a conspiracy, it's sampling. These companies survey their own customers, people who already paid for tools, meaning they were serious enough to spend money and are still around to answer a survey. Everybody who quit in month 4 isn't in the sample. They never are. Survivorship bias isn't a footnote here. It's the structure of the available information. Dropshipping is worse. The commonly cited figure is that 90% of stores fail, sometimes 95%, and chasing the sourcing gets you e-commerce blogs citing other e-commerce blogs. The number might be roughly right, but nobody's running a proper cohort study on dropshippers because no institution has a reason to fund one. Second rule: check whether whoever published the success rate sells something to the people trying to succeed. That's not cynicism, it's reading the byline. Academic labor economists study Uber drivers. Nobody with tenure is studying whether your Etsy shop works, which is exactly why the gig economy is the one place we can get a real answer, and where the disagreement between honest researchers turns out to be more instructive than any single number. Rideshare driving is the most recommended side hustle in America. Low barrier, immediate start, no skills gate. 3 separate research efforts tried to establish what drivers net per hour after expenses. They got $22 and $13 and $5.49. Same job, same country, roughly the same era. HR and AMP. Advisors produced the highest figure, finding that after expenses, Uber drivers in cities like Chicago and Philadelphia earned meaningfully more per hour than workers in comparable occupations. That study was commissioned by Uber. Berkeley's Institute for Research on Labor and Employment reanalyzed it and got about $13, $9 lower. The argument is almost entirely about what counts as an expense: HR and AMP. A treated most fixed vehicle costs as things you'd pay anyway for personal use and excluded them. Berkeley used the full IRS mileage rate, which builds in about 30 cents a mile of depreciation, roughly 3 times what HR and AMP allowed to. Their conclusion was that the Uber-funded study overstated net hourly earnings by about 70%. And a University of Colorado study, using tracking data from a driver-run data cooperative in Denver, plus a survey of over 300 drivers, landed at $5.49 an hour after expenses, including the unpaid time spent driving to pickups. When the platforms disputed that, they cited hourly figures between $25 and $37. Here's the tell. The Colorado researchers noted their own data showed $19 to $50 an hour before subtracting expenses. The platforms weren't contradicting the study. They were quoting the same numbers from before the expenses came out. I want to be careful here, because it'd be easy to declare the lowest number the real one and move on. That's not honest. The Colorado figure is one metro area and a self-selected sample. Berkeley is a reanalysis, not fresh collection. Net earnings genuinely do vary enormously by city, by vehicle, by hours, by whether your car's paid off. But the direction of the disagreement isn't ambiguous. Every step away from the platform's own accounting moves the number down, and the mechanism is always the same: expenses and unpaid time. Third rule, and it's the one that costs people the most: gross is not income. If a hustle needs a vehicle, inventory, equipment, or software, the number in the app is revenue. Your pay is revenue minus expenses, minus the hours nobody paid you for. For driving, that's fuel, maintenance, insurance, and the depreciation you don't see until you try to sell the car. Somewhere between 30 and 50 cents a mile depending on whose accounting you accept. Then self-employment tax, 15.3%, which nobody in a side hustle video ever mentions, because it converts a good number into a mediocre one instantly. I learned that one expensively. There was a stretch where I freelanced on weekends and I was thrilled with my hourly rate. I quoted it to people. It sounded great. Then tax season arrived. I discovered self-employment tax. I hadn't set aside a cent, and the rate I'd actually been earning was about 2/3 of the number I'd been proudly telling my friends. I wasn't lying to them. I was doing what everyone does, quoting gross as though it were income. So let's do the arithmetic properly, right now, on whatever you're considering or already doing. 4 steps. Pause if you need to. Start with monthly revenue, the number the app or the client actually pays you. Subtract every expense, including the ones that don't feel like expenses. Mileage at 40 cents, software subscriptions, equipment, inventory, supplies, the stuff you bought or that you'd never have bought otherwise. Multiply what's left by 0.85, which is the rough haircut for self-employment tax. Now divide by total hours, not billable hours. Include the driving to pickups, the unpaid waiting, the product research, the customer service messages at 11 at night, the admin. That's your real hourly rate. Hold it next to what a part-time job pays where you live, with no vehicle expense, no tax surprise, and no unpaid hours. Around $15 to $18 an hour in most markets. If your number lands under that, you haven't found a side hustle. You've found an expensive hobby that occasionally deposits money, which is fine if that's the trade you're choosing. It's not fine if you didn't know you were choosing it. And here's what most people find when they run it. The number isn't catastrophic. It's just ordinary, which is the actual problem with this entire genre. Not that side hustles don't work, but that ordinary results get marketed as extraordinary ones, and people quit when reality shows up on schedule. But there's a bigger issue than any hourly rate, and it's the one that determines whether 5 years of this changes anything. Almost every popular side hustle is a second job with worse benefits. That's not an insult. Sometimes a second job is exactly what you need. But be precise about what you're buying. Sort by what happens when you stop. Category 1. Hours for dollars. Income ends the moment you stop. Driving, delivery, task apps. Most freelancing, the rate can be fine, but there's no accumulation. Hour 500 pays what hour 1 paid, and there's a hard ceiling because there are only so many hours in a weekend. Run that forward. 20 hours a month at $15 net is $3,600 a year. Do it for 5 years. That's $18,000 and about 1,200 hours of your life. Real money. But year 5 looks exactly like year 1. Category 2. You build something that keeps producing, a skill that permanently raises your rate, a client relationship that renews, a body of work that keeps selling. Same 1,200 hours, but the rate moves. $30 an hour by year 3 isn't heroic. It's just what happens when you get good at one thing and charge accordingly. That's the difference between 18,000 and something closer to 30 for identical effort. And the honest version, which the hustle content never says. Category 2 is slower, less certain, and frequently pays nothing for the first few months. That's exactly why it doesn't make good thumbnails. Start earning today is a Category 1 promise by definition. Obscure note. I find weirdly comforting. None of this is new. In the 19th century, moonlighting meant working a second job at night. And earlier still, an Irish moonlighter was something closer to a nighttime agitator. Stacking a second income has been normal for the entire industrial era. What's new isn't the practice, it's the marketing layer on top of it. So what actually works? Because I've spent this whole video taking numbers apart, and that's cheap unless I put something in its place. The honest answer starts with something that isn't a side hustle at all. Look at your main job first. A 10% raise on $60,000 is $6,000 a year, and it costs 0 additional hours. It arrives whether you're tired or not. It compounds into every future raise. It doesn't require you to have a personality on the internet. The median side hustle earns $2,400 a year for real work performed. The comparison isn't close. The reason nobody makes videos about it is that ask for a raise is one sentence and doesn't sell a course. Second, if you do want extra income, sell a skill you already have to people who already pay for it. Shortest distance between effort and money. Good at spreadsheets. Bookkeeping for small businesses is real work and real money. Write clearly. So is that. This advice sounds boring because it's specific to you, which means nobody can package it as a system. Third, watch the burnout math. Survey data puts side hustle burnout around 2/3 of participants, with a threshold that keeps showing up. Roughly half say the effort only feels worth it above about $500 a week. Below that, most people are trading a real share of their remaining life for an amount that doesn't move their situation. And exhaustion isn't free. A tired person performs worse at the main job, generating most of their income. There's a live scenario where the side hustle costs you a promotion worth more than the side hustle. Fourth, and this is where the money actually gets lost, set an exit condition before you start. A number and a date. If this isn't clearing $400 a month by November, I stop. Written down in advance while you're still calm and before you're emotionally invested. Because the failure mode isn't starting something that doesn't work. That's normal and unavoidable, and everyone does it. The failure mode is continuing something that doesn't work for 2 years, because stopping would mean admitting the first 6 months were wasted. That's the sunk cost fallacy, and it's the single most expensive bias in this entire space. Anyone who's spent $4,000 on inventory they couldn't sell knows precisely what I mean. I've been there. I kept something going about 8 months past the point the numbers were clearly telling me to stop. And the only reason was that quitting felt like a verdict on me instead of on the idea. It wasn't. It was an idea that didn't work. And the 8 months cost more than the idea did. Which is the thing I actually want you to take from this. Go back to those 70 disclosure statements. The FTC didn't find fraud exactly. Most of those documents were accurate. What they found was true numbers arranged to produce a false impression. Top earners up front, zeros buried, expenses ignored. Every income claim in this space is built that way. Not because everyone in it is a criminal, but because that's what happens when the people generating the numbers benefit from the numbers looking good. So you don't need to be more skeptical. Skepticism is exhausting, and it makes you miss real opportunities. You need 3 questions. Where's the median? Who paid for this data? And what does it look like after expenses and taxes? That's the whole defense. It works on courses, platforms, disclosure statements, and the guy in your DMs. And here's the part I don't want lost in all the debunking. A side hustle can absolutely be worth it. Millions of people are meaningfully better off for having one. The median being $200 doesn't mean yours will be. It means you should know what typical looks like before you assume you'll beat it. Because the people who fail at this mostly aren't failing at the work. They're failing because they started with a number that was never real, measured themselves against it, and quit while doing perfectly fine. Or kept going long after the arithmetic said stop. Go in with the real number instead of the marketed one. The real number is often still good. It's just never the one on the thumbnail.